One of the challenges, though, that we face is, and something that we kind of learned in the process of doing this listening project, was kind of being introduced to this three faces of power perspective. And so just briefly, the three faces of power can be looked at as visible power, and that's kind of the current, immediate, legislative, or electoral fight. So it's the bill that's in Congress. The next level is hidden power, which is the infrastructure to shape political agendas. So as an example that I think of about that illustrates that is, does everyone remember the big debate that happened over single-payer health care? Didn't happen. It was off the table before the debate even started.
Is that the 1990s or?
No, that was when the Affordable Care Act, before the Affordable Care Act was passed. And then a further level is the invisible power, and that's the dominant worldview. That's the worldview that blames the poor for their problems.
Well, that's right.
And it blames the poor. It says the job creators are the billionaires, and that we're spending too much. So this diagram here, I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but it's basically one model of what can be called the corporate or conservative elite worldview that has somehow gained control of the media and the public discourse. It's based on three main things or principles. Extreme individualism. It's the belief that everybody can raise themselves up by their bootstraps. It believes the myth that we have a level playing field. It believes that there is no racism and that there is no structural injustice. Another point in this triad is anti-government. Smaller government is better, except militarism and mass incarceration, and it promotes the view that government is incapable of doing anything. On the other hand, free markets are thought to be best unfettered, no regulations, that markets will take care of all of us, that businesses can solve our social problems. And then added to all of this is racism.
It is.
So that you have racism, and so you don't, this worldview says, well, you don't want to help poor people because those are persons of color. Maybe we won't mention that, but we'll all wink and nod and say that. And that government, and that if we help people, we're actually hurting them because we're not allowing them to stand up for themselves. And government can't do anything anyway. And that markets, you shouldn't bother markets. You shouldn't pass laws to raise the minimum wage because then you're hurting businesses' ability to take care of all these problems. So this is the challenge that we face. We're stuck in this worldview that every time we confront an issue on that visible power level, that worldview has to be fought over and over again. And too often, too much attention has been focused on just that visible power level. So in addition to that, we need to be focusing on building our capacity to set the agenda, building the infrastructure, and bringing together progressive groups so that we all see our common agenda, even though it may look like it's different, even though housing may look like it's different than wages, even though health care may be look different than child care. But we need to recognize that all of those things are necessary for a healthy society and are linked together. So we did this listening project. We created a report. There's a yellow flyer that you have, and there's a website that you can go to get more information about the report. But after we spoke with those 46 leaders, we developed, working with them, a statement that we felt could be principles upon which a new kind of worldview, a new kind of agenda that we could all sign on to and get on board with. And I'll actually talk through this worldview because I invite each of you to endorse this worldview and endorse this statement. And I invite you to pledge to kind of follow up and use this in your advocacy. Because what we need to do is we need to change the whole discussion. So every time we challenge and we talk about low wages, if we're fighting that battle over again against this worldview that government is bad, that free markets will save us, then we're going to tire ourselves out and we're always kind of playing catch up. But if this worldview is put out there by voices over and over and over again, it will strengthen our ability to make progress. So, our leaders came to these conclusions. We assert that we must reorient our public policies in a new direction, follow core values, and re-engage our moral compass. We make this assessment based on the findings of the Move the Money Listening Project, and I'll skip over that part, and based on support of the best social research available. So these are the findings. Pervasive poverty, injustice, and increasing inequity in our community is unacceptable. Poverty is widespread, and inequality is growing across the Kansas City metro. Inequality and injustice are results of systemic structural forces, especially impacting communities of color. Governments at all levels can and must implement policies and make investments that improve the lives of all citizens. Adequate resources can be provided to create a healthy economy and reduce poverty by cutting excessive military spending, stopping mass incarceration, and eliminating tax evasion tricks by corporations and the 1%. Control of the public agenda setting by wealth and power is unacceptable. We demand our elected officials at all levels enact policies that promote the common good and that citizens speak out in the end and end the control of our government by big money. And we concluded, as a nation, we have long claimed to be a land of opportunity where anyone can succeed. These values are in question as more Americans fall behind. It is time to repair the basic structures, income, education, healthcare, housing, which have been systematically rebuilt to favor the wealthy. It is time to recognize that our communal well-being relies on a complex web of relationships which connect us to one another. As some suffer, we all suffer. We demand our elected officials move the money and enact public policy that promote the common good. So this statement is in this sheet that's on most of your chairs, and there are these endorsement forms. So we're asking leaders to endorse, we're asking community members to endorse, we're asking anyone that may speak out on public policy. We ask that you complete this form. If you need pencils, we have some volunteers and there's pencils at the table to fill out the form. And we will be in touch with you. We'll ask you to help us identify issues that we need to mobilize ourselves around. And by this one method is one of those that can add to our tools to work for social change. And I thank you very much.